Welcome back, strange crew. You are tuned into another trip through life's deep cuts. We hope you enjoy the ride.
Keep it strange.
And we're rolling. Ian, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks. It's nice to see you guys again.
Strange crew, we got a good one for you today. We got a super good one. I'm excited.
Yeah, no, this is such a we have so much cool things to talk about of course, like yourself and your relationship with music, but also your business as well, that we're super excited to tell our listeners about. But I guess to start things off, Ian, introduce yourself and sort of who you are, what you do, where you're at.
Sure. Yeah. So I am Ian Morse, and I started a company with two friends a couple years ago called Three Hippies. And we had kind of come out of a typical corporate kind of merger, buyout, and exit, not necessarily the great kind of exit, and just wanted to do something a little different. And we had some time and put our brains together, and somehow ended up in the event ticket music space, and really felt like there was a place for kind of an alternative. There's big players in the space, and feel like the younger or less mature or smaller artists don't have anybody that can represent them. So we dipped our toe in the space and kind of fell in love with it, and picking up a little bit of steam and really just trying to figure it out as we go. There's people that know way more about it than we do, but we're
still filling a gap, obviously, right? That's what's important, right? You see something being underserved, and it's like tackle it. And yeah, there could be other things or tools or whatever, but it's like provide it and then try to figure out what else should we roadmap to maybe make this good for our customers or for the artists that use it, right? It's effort's always going to happen, but it's better to understand like who actually gives a shit about it to actually improve it.
That's the exciting part of it is that we work closely with customers, and our pitch is we're a little newer. We don't have quite as many features or stuff, but our prices are better, our services are better, and also as an early adopter, you get the opportunity to work with us and shape the product to something that really works for you. And it's really satisfying to have somebody say, if I just had this, it would make my life better. And then a couple weeks later they get it, and they're so happy that we listen to them. So that's kind of the mode we're in.
Right. So the platform is called Locarious?
Locarious. Yeah.
Locarious. Amazing. So I guess, can you so how does it work? So is it more like, if you were to compare it to something, like, I guess run us through sort of how, say if you wanted to host a show somewhere, how would one leverage the platform?
Yeah, so it's really based on Eventbrite. In terms of all the ways you can sell tickets online, we're probably closest to Eventbrite. What we found though was that when we started, Eventbrite was starting to do shady things. They started putting their prices up. When we started, the list price was not the same as the price you had when you checked out. Ticketmaster's bad for that. I think Eventbrite has since fixed that problem. I think they're a little bit more transparent. But we wanted to do things like that and give you your money on time. Eventbrite does that now too, but not necessarily. So it's kind of a self-serve platform. You can sign up, you hook up your bank account with Stripe. We never touch your money, and we host and promote and collect the money and distribute it. So it's simple, and it's priced accordingly, and it's got really good customer support. Like I answered an email last night at 8 p.m. The CTO responding to customer issues, partly because we're small, but partly because we're a bunch of tech guys, and we think that investing in chatbots that don't give you answers is a waste of time. Like, AI is awesome for a lot of things, but it just doesn't answer your question half the time. And we're kind of
Facts.
committed not to go down that route.
Yeah. So who are some of the, so far, describe some of the early adopters? Like, is it like musicians? Is it like performing arts? And where are they? Like, is it, you're based in PEI, but is it the Maritimes or is it beyond?
We've got some pretty good adoption in the Maritimes, a few beyond. We're based in PEI, so we got really lucky that the owner of the Trailside Music Hall, Pat Deegan, took a chance on us, and that relationship has worked out really, really well. So he does in the summer 30 shows a month, and has helped us kind of refine our offering. So he's one. Watermark Theater is one in PEI as well. We've got some customers in Newfoundland and New Brunswick. I don't know if we've got a couple in Nova Scotia, but we're trying to tell Nova Scotia we're here. If only they'd listen. And then we've got a few onesie-twosies in Ontario and beyond. But we're really trying to kind of get the word out and let people know we're here.
Yeah, I mean, that's the best thing that you can do, right? And give people that positive experience of using the product or seeing, the different fee structures or whatever that is, because word of mouth with people who actually are using it is the best way to get more people using it, right? Or listening to a podcast, or, it's like, yeah, it's almost like genius marketing, but it's just kind of a no-brainer, right? Just get out, talk about the good things that your product does and tell people why they should be using it.
Yeah, it really has kind of turned into a passion project for us. Every time you see something shady going on with Ticketmaster or drip fees or bots or all these things going on, and we're like, oh, how can we take one piece of that and make it, slightly better? We started off wanting to be the solution for the end user, the person buying the ticket, because we felt like we were getting ripped off. And then we realized in order to solve that, we actually have to go to the artist or the venue or the promoter. So we had to shift who we were targeting to use the product, but we still care mostly about the ticket buyers because that's who we are.
Was there a moment, I guess, personally, or even with members of your team, that sort of a personal experience with purchasing tickets that led you to become kind of passionate about this? Like, because I feel like, especially over the last 4 years after the pandemic, like ticketing, it's been a hot topic, right? I guess, have you had an experience doing that? Like, or was there a moment you're like, I'm going to fix this?
I guess the moment for us was that the son of one of the co-founders was working for an entertainment company, and had kind of just gone through a pretty severe and negative experience with, I won't say any names, one of our competitors, where a bunch of money was held over COVID and they were having trouble getting it back. And you kind of hear about that in the news, and then you realize like people's livelihoods are at stake here. Like, people can't get their money back. And it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, and like they need to pay staff or they need to pay rent or whatever. And
like,
so
listening to contracts and, being able to play again, or even just, I don't know the word, but like the relationship is so important, in music and things. And we know this. And so it's like, when you get fees cut up or something falls through the cracks, or if you're not asking questions to take care of people, it's like, you're right. Like, shit can hit the fan pretty quick, and it's people's livelihoods. So it's not really cool to mess around at all in those aspects. And I think a lot of artists and, people like all of us on the call, we utilize, I think, software or things because we feel like it's there for us, but we have to also do the due diligence to make sure that what we're signing or what we're subscribing to is actually for us and not against us, because that happens all too often, or getting into things like for a year that don't serve us, right? So it's awful to hear when those things happen, but glad that you were like, hey, I'm gonna just not let this happen to people that we're talking to, because it's absurd.
Yeah, it really, so as soon as you start a business, and we kind of started, quietly and not really sure what we were doing, just testing things out. Provincial and federal programs started showing up and saying, hey, have you gone through this incubator? Have you gone through that thing? I don't know if you guys had that experience. Have you hooked up with, so and so or whatever? And the first thing that they try to do is say, like, how are you going to grow faster? How are you going to, expand? And while the advice is really, like, truly appreciated, our feeling on it is that, like, growing faster and doing some of these things just to make the dollars is exactly how we get to where we don't want to be.
Yeah.
Because you end up making decisions that are good for your bank account, but not good for your customers.
Yeah.
And I guess that's another thing that we see is every online service is raising their prices or changing something to make it better for them, but not better for the customer. And so we're really conscious of, like, how can we grow in such a way that we provide service that's just fair. Like where did fairness go in the business world? There are great companies out there, but a lot of them are just, being controlled by boards that are looking for some kind of unsustainable growth year over year. And I don't know, we need a different measure of success, I think.
Yeah, I think it's the best way is just, like, implementing it, right? And just making sure you're not fucking around. Like, I mean, ultimately, like, that's kind of like our ethos as a podcast and as a marketing business. It's like, you can take things on, and things can, from a continuous improvement aspect, they can be looked at and say, oh, fuck, we got something and it wasn't really worth it. But at the same time, if you're not working with people who actually can, work with you like that, or say, oh, okay, it's okay that solution wasn't what you needed, or that is something that we could actually maybe look at road mapping into our, our software or our app or our podcast interviews. And, I think, like, audiences and users are pretty good that way, but I think it also falls on the business owners to make sure that they're being, good about it in business and just being fair too, right?
Yep. And yeah, I mean, like, I'm sure in your marketing company, you could say, 2025, inflation, blah, blah, blah. We're increasing our prices by 25% because, we have to. And you could do that, and your customers might stick with you for another year and kind of ride it out. But then they'd start looking somewhere else, I'm sure. And we just see that everywhere. You see it in construction. You see it in online subscription fees. You see it in ticketing. Anyway, I think the world is tired of it, or some segment of the world is tired of it. Like, just stop taking advantage of me. Just treat me like a human.
Right.
That's so true. And this sort of leads me, so someone could argue about what you just said is something that a hippie would say. And so I want to ask about, can you tell us the story behind the company name, Three Hippies?
Yeah, well, and that's it. Every time we meet people, they're like, you guys aren't hippies. If you meet Gordy, he's got a big white beard and lives on 100 acres of woods and grows his own food and stuff a lot. So he's the closest to a hippie, maybe out of all of us. But the whole idea is really about kind of how we see business, how we see life. We're all a little bit older. We've all done a couple of startups, kind of been through the ringer, and maybe just see success and life and business differently. And so kind of how we started, we were sitting around literally at a sushi restaurant, licking our wounds, going like, oh man, we thought this acquisition that we went through was going to be so great and positive, and we all got our notice. We were all getting laid off, and just this realization that a lot of the way that business works, and I mean, it's capitalism, it's the system we live in. A lot of us are just numbers. Like, there's no, when a business gets big enough, you're just a number. You're an interchangeable cog in a machine. And it really didn't feel very good. And so we thought, well, I wish we could fight against the man. And then we realized that what if we just didn't fight against the man, but made a small impact to a few people. And so we said, all right, let's do it. what do we call ourselves? Three hippies. We sound like a bunch of hippies. And really the product was secondary. So we're a bunch of tech people, and we're like, okay, we know what we want to do. How are we going to make this happen? And so then the lead in with a bit of a personal relationship in the entertainment and stuff, we kind of started working and still having a great time and trying to make the world better slowly.
That's really cool. It's so often, like, especially in the tech space, it usually starts with, like, the whole thing usually starts with like an idea or an app or a solution. But with you guys, it sort of started as like a philosophy, an overall ethos and mission, which is that's really cool to hear.
Yeah, the concern, the ongoing conversation is like, it's fine now. What happens when we, hire 10 or 20 or 100 people? How do we keep that same philosophy, and how do we keep control of our company so that we're never put in a position where we're forced to make a decision about money over people, which is like, money's important, right? Like, we all have to live. I'd like a bigger house and a nicer car, and I'd like to pave my driveway, but remembering that people matter, and like ultimately, like, that's why we're here. That's what we're trying hard to remember every day.
Yeah. It's so, like, word. I totally agree, because it's like, it's so easy sometimes with life, and like, again, we live in a capitalist society where it's like we're always kind of chasing after the next thing, or like, oh, I need this, I need to do that. But at the end of the day, it's like, and Kate and I talk about this all the time, like, as long as like our bills are paid and there's food on the table, you know what I mean, and we're doing stuff that we love, it's sort of that's like the big trade-off. You know what I mean? That's what it makes it all worth it, right? Like, because money at the end of the day, it's cliche, right? But it doesn't buy happiness, right? And you have to wonder, and you look at these companies, like these bigger institutions that have, CEOs taking home like millions and billions of dollars of, like, bonuses for every year, right? And you're just like, for what though? And like, and these are the companies that have, like, their employees actually doing the work that aren't, you know what I mean? That aren't. So it's just, it's really cool to have me to chat with you and learn about a company that has like a completely different perspective from the get-go. Like, it wasn't, that philosophy is something that was like your foundation. It wasn't something that you implemented like, years ago, right?
Like I say, it remains to be seen. Like, we haven't been faced with any really tough decision where we have to go against that philosophy, and I really hope we won't. But it's not to say that every big company is evil either. Like, it's easy to get on that bandwagon. One of the founders worked with Salesforce, which is a huge company, billion-dollar company, and he was talking about how over COVID, because their revenue dropped like everybody else's, because everybody was in a kind of sheltering in place. Their strategy to control that was to reduce bonuses. And I was like, oh, great, here's another one. But basically what they did was, for all the common folk, they reduced their bonus by 1%. And all of the CEOs and C-suite and managers and upper level, they reduced it by everything except 1%. So if you were getting a 20% bonus, your bonus was cut by 19%. So they gave the people that were in charge a 1% bonus in order to give everybody else as big a bonus as they could. And we're like, that's awesome. So you do see it. Like, you do see it in these big companies.
For sure.
You can't just paint everybody with the same brush, but definitely frustrating to see these CEOs fire 10% of their workforce, like 5 or 10,000 people, and then give themselves a big bonus at the end of the year and buy another corporate jet. Like, it's just it's a strange world that we just accept all that. Fight the fight. We really have to work hard as a company to, like, not get on this rah bandwagon, because like it's important to a point, but what we really want to do is write good code, meet good people, be honest, be transparent, and see these younger or smaller acts succeed.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, we were at the ECMAs this year, and every single artist that we met was like, well, I'm gigging, 2 to 3, 4 nights a week, and I can't make ends meet doing that. And I'm like, that's crazy. You're working hard. You should be paid for it. How can we help there?
Right.
And we're only one piece of the solution, but I think with our ticketing and our prices, somebody who was using Eventbrite could make an extra $100 a gig or $150 a gig. If you're doing it 2 or 3 nights a week, it's $1,200 a month. Maybe that means you can quit your day job. Like, I don't know if it does or not, but that's kind of, if somebody comes along with us and helps, they can do the next piece, and somebody else can do the next piece. We don't actually care about Taylor Swift. Like, if Taylor Swift showed up and said, "Can I use your ticketing software?" we'd probably say yes. But what we really care about is all of the bands that play in all of the bars in all of the podunk towns who are making great music and aren't getting any support or recognition.
Right. Yeah,
absolutely. So since your platform's all about, supporting artists and live music, we need to ask, what do you listen to? Who are your favorite acts? What are some of the best shows you ever been to? This is a Strange Goose episode, so we have to touch on that.
Yes. I don't get out to as many shows as I'd like to, and my music taste, I'm almost embarrassed to tell people what I listen to.
No, same here. Judge it, Green Zone.
I was at a workout boot camp, and they were like, "All right, Ian's picking the music." I'm like, "I don't listen to workout music." And then we listened to some, and they were like, "What's this?" So my favorite band in the world, Biffy Clyro, 100% best Scottish rock band ever. And went to one of their shows in Montreal a few years ago. It's actually on my wife's birthday, just happened to line up. They were amazing. And Biffy Clyro led me to Frightened Rabbit, who, I don't know if you've heard of them. They're outstanding. Unfortunately, they're no longer a band. And my other favorite music to listen to while I'm working is Dry the River, which is the weirdest band out of the UK you've ever heard of. Like, so weird. And they're not around anymore because they were just a band while they were in like university or something. So for whatever reason, my ear likes British music.
Amen. Yeah, man.
But I like everything. I'll listen to anything.
That's awesome. So what did the people at the gym think when this stuff came on?
Well, you can't work out to it, right? Like, I put it on when I'm running and track my kilometers based on what track I'm on. But yeah, you should definitely check them out and be amazed at Dry the River.
Amazing. We'll include a link to them in the blog so people can check.
Awesome. And I guess I'll have to, nobody's going to write me personally after, but somebody's going to say, who are these people? Why would anybody recommend them? But they're so amazing if you give them a chance.
We love it. We love strange things at Strange Grooves. So we're into it.
Yeah, and for anybody listening, obviously this is only like one of, many times I'm assuming that we'll be talking to Ian because, connecting bands, connecting people, and making sure that people know, what resources are out there. And, if there are things that, you need, and not from a feedback perspective, like negatively, but if people can tell you like a common denominator of something that would be useful that you can provide, it's good where, you guys are tech guys. It's good. You kind of understand how to do that versus it being hard or being a bottleneck for anyone else. And I think now, like, especially going into 2025, people are a lot more, more protective of how they spend their money and where they want to put it. And, if I think also as a customer, you have to also wonder, are you using something because it has ease of access, or are you using it because it actually supports the music industry and the ecosystem? And it might take a couple of extra tabs or maybe a couple extra clicks, or maybe it doesn't. But I think, it's something that Sharice and I, we definitely try to really think about every time we're making a purchase, or, helping manage a band or an artist. In COVID, it really did shake everything up. And of course it would. It was a freaking pandemic. But one thing that, we didn't really expect it to see is that, people really, really did want to go out again. But there was this sense of, people should just be happy to play, or, provide their marketing services or do this. But people still have bills to pay. Right. And so for us, it's making sure that when bands are playing, that they're getting paid. And like you said, that few $100s that can accumulate over a few gigs, even if in a week or in a few weeks, that's the difference of, not maybe driving late at night to get back home and being able to stay somewheres. It's the difference of actually having, maybe your band with you, or having safe parking, or, being able to rent the gear that you need to make your set really good. And so I think it plays into such a bigger picture. And I don't think, I can tell the strange truth that, like, as we've looked and kind of audited your product and kind of learned more about you over the coming weeks before the interview, I think it's important to know that, like, that's kind of your ethos, as you guys said at the start of the call. It's you don't want to forget about the very people who, needed the product in the first place. And it's a great way of kind of understanding what people need, maybe in 2025. So we'll keep our ears open, and we'll let you in on the tea if we hear anything, and you can be first on the scene to help people.
Yeah, we love that. It's doing business that involves relationships is just so much more rewarding. And
Oh,
so
it is. Yeah.
meeting you guys was wonderful, and we've got customers that we communicate with regularly. They'll tell us just stories. It doesn't always have to be about business. Just build that relationship, and it's really great.
Well, like, advice and tools is so important, whether, like you said, in music or marketing. And like, if I go back to the price variation and people thinking people should just be happy to play, it's like you said, they still have to come into the city and park and have a place to stay, and like it really does matter. And we really feel that music really is so much more important, especially now. And having people, especially venue owners and the ticketing organizations, bands and artists as well, to know their value of what they're trying to put on, and not just half-assing gigs, not just half-assing their sets, and not just half-assing a shitty customer experience. Because from the marketing perspective, we don't want to go to shows that, like, it was hard to get the tickets, or that it's a shit show trying to scan them. Like, there's a lot of things that can deflate your sales, both as a customer and also as an artist, which you can feel that energy on stage or within the show, right? Like, and I think now too, like, there is a duty, like I said, to both the customer and the potential party who's using it to sell to a customer like myself, to make sure that experience actually is good, right? And I think, we run into this a lot, and bands, musicians, if you're listening, if people are saying, oh, you just come here, pay what you can. No, absolutely not. Like, it's important to obviously get out there and play gigs and be, accommodating sometimes, and to get on as many stages as you can. Yes. But I think it's also important to work with people like yourself, Ian, and like Charisse and I, and people that know people that want to pay musicians for the incredible music that they're making, and to help them say, hey, have you ever tried ticketing before? Because, there are people who don't just want to throw money in a can at a bar, and they want to pay you $10, $20, $30, $50 for a ticket. And they're like, what? And it's sometimes otherworldly to people.
Yep.
And I think it's because maybe in the Maritimes, maybe in Canada too, very humble people. And maybe we feel like we need to accumulate that, like, 10,000 hours of, like, playing for free, or, like, really just going through the ringer. But I don't think that that's the case. I don't think that that's actually smart or sustainable either. And I know you and your background, you would probably agree with me.
Yeah. When I was starting out in university, I made some money doing contract work.
Yeah.
And I still do that from time to time, because, in spite of the fact that we sell, I think we sold our 50,000th ticket recently, and it doesn't pay the bills for us yet. Sure. Hopefully it will. So like, we're still hustling and doing things on the side, because we want to keep this going. But in university, I started, I think minimum wage was $5.75 an hour or something, and I was charging 12 and felt like a big man.
Yeah.
But at some point, somebody gave me some advice and said, hey, you could probably be charging $50 an hour. And I felt like, as you say, a bit of an imposter. I was too something, down on myself, humble. I couldn't do it. And I went ahead and did it. And what ended up happening was I attracted really great customers.
Oh, 100%.
And got rid of the bad customers. And then I worked less hours and made more money. Like, it was amazing. And I think there's probably a lesson there everywhere.
Investing in yourself and really understanding, that people will come to greatness and what you have. And if you protect your accessibility a little bit, people will value your expertise and your advice and what you're trying to build. And me and Therese are 100% for that, both at our podcast company and at our marketing company, because it's kind of how we have to roll. Right. And if we want to, just try to make a bunch of money, I mean, there's that. But I think trying to say, like, maybe we don't want to compete with everybody. We want to go a step above, and only those that want to actually pay and to play at that rate allowed to be into that ecosystem. And then it's like no one's lollygagging. No one's trying to, try to be the big ego person on the call and bring like the big aha moment. Like, I think it's just one of those things where, it's really good to have a set of people that care about the people they're serving, but to also give those people you're serving a little bit of an elevation, and to remind them that what they're doing is good, remind them why they have passion in what they're doing, and elevate that, because that's what people are attracted to. And here's the thing: if you charge big money, well, okay, they'll figure out a way to get it and throw it at you, just to have that accessibility, or to be able to use that platform, or to say that they're an artist using that platform or using that marketing agency. So I 100% agree with you. And any artist, that's on the call, or band, or even small business, like, I think there's the bigger question: what would happen if you didn't? And if you keep going out and like maybe playing like the few gigs around town and doing that, like, are you almost like losing money? Or is it just a hobby? And are you taking grants and different things from people that maybe should have them because you're not taking it seriously? And I think, as much as music and things can be fun, you do have to treat it like a business if you are looking to try to get out there and, get into the charts and be on playlists and be on maybe the festival, whatever those goals might be. But I do think, as a band, artist, or small business, you definitely do have to raise that value, both in price and in showcasing why you're doing it. And people will be attracted to that.
Yeah. It's personal to me because, I dabble. I play a few instruments for myself. Mm-hmm. But my brother-in-law is a professional musician, and he's one of these guys who has to have a side hustle. I think he was telling me he's doing 5 gigs this week, and working a full-time job.
Wow.
And my daughter is graduating from high school this year, and she's going to the performing arts school here.
Oh, wow.
And like, it occurs to me that if she wants to make a living doing what she loves, then, maybe I can help, not necessarily with my platform, but in the industry, help mm-hmm. make a way so that she can do that.
That's right. Yeah. What is something that you feel that maybe like you people don't know about your product that you want them to know?
What don't people know?
Because people ask that to us all the time. They're like, oh, what's Strange Brews? What do you guys actually do? What's going on? And we're like, oh, well, we interview cool people. And they're like, yeah, like who? So like, obviously we've learned a lot. Like, we know about your product, but like, what's something maybe the common person, or even someone who might be already using it, doesn't know about the accessibility or functionality of your product?
Well, it's easy. And we've got a bunch of features that we wanted to build for people. And I'll tell you about that in just a second. They're not built yet. But the ease of use and the support is what people, I think, don't realize they're missing until they get it. Mm-hmm. And it sounds silly until you're either trying to put on a show and can't figure something out. You're trying to scan people at the gate and it's not working. Or you're trying to buy a ticket and you can't, for the life of you, figure something out. Or you didn't know, your tickets went somewhere and you don't know where they went. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
And I feel a little sheepish saying it because people have accused us of that not being a differentiator. Everybody's got good support, but the fact is they don't. And we stand by it. We've got really, really great support. In terms of something that I think people might get excited about, which is not built yet, it's going to take a little bit of time to do all the work, but the whole goal of our product is to be the primary, like the first person that buys the ticket, and the secondary or the resale market all in one, and be able to track the full history of the ticket. Not only that, the event organizer can make rules about ticket resale. So in Europe, there's all kinds of laws and stuff, and people still try and skirt it about, upping the price and whatever. Here there's not. In the US, there's not.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's really crazy. We always recommend people go to Europe. Might sound a bit crazy, but I mean, if you're going to pay $3-4 grand for a ticket, and people do, I know maybe people on the call going, who fuck's paying for? People are, and there's a reason why they're that price, because people are buying them, and you can be judgmental about it, but it exists. But we bought a trip last year to Paris to see Madonna. I think the flight was $600 or $700, which we'd saved up for, and then the tickets were $95, and we were right beside the stage. And I didn't see tickets for above $395. Like there was a standard. And then when I started to kind of look into it, I was like, I wonder. And because, you don't frequent Europe all the time. We're not ballers, right? I started to look into it, and I was like, if you are looking to go see bigger artists, or even like artists that you just really love, one, the venues are usually a lot smaller, so it's going to be a better show. Two, there is standarding for ticketing, which is great, or standard ticketing prices, which is great. And you can kind of see Europe for a couple of days. And sometimes it ends up being cheaper than flying maybe to see Taylor Swift in Toronto for $6 grand.
Yeah.
Right. But like you said, it's good to know what that ecosystem, looks like, so that you can kind of aim for that goal to be that premier or secondary service. Right.
Yeah. So we would love North America to adopt European ticket standards.
Yeah. Wouldn't know, but they won't do that. They want to make money.
I just don't see that happening. But what we are pretty excited about is building into the ticket itself. If it's resold, the original ticket producer can redirect money from the resale however they want.
Okay.
So you could say, fine, resell your ticket for $1,000, but 20% of that profit is going back to the artist, or 20% of that is going to a charity, or 50% of it, or you can resell it, but you can't sell it for more than X, Y, or Z.
Right.
And so we're actually pretty excited to hear if people think that that's a great idea. We think it's a great idea. I think it would be awesome as an artist if you have a sold out show, and let's say you've made, I don't know, your $5,000 or $10,000 off of it, and then people are reselling your tickets. You don't see any of that money right now. But if people are reselling your tickets and you could increase your 10 grand by an extra 1,000 or 1,500 bucks, from a percentage perspective, you've increased your take by 15%, which again, going back to what you said, does that mean that you can quit your day job? Does that mean that you can travel safely, or get better gear, or hire the extra person to help you lug stuff around, or whatever it is?
Yeah. Really adds up, doesn't it? Quick. Yeah,
that's right. It's again, not to pick on organizers too much. We've got friends who are organizers, and like they're kind of biting their fingernails every time an event comes, because their margins are slim.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah, I know. A lot of times we can't even, we try to help put on a show, it ends up just being a bottleneck of being an idea and unable to go anywhere. And it sucks because there's lots of places that are looking to make money. They've got beautiful bars, beautiful gear. They've got the PAs all set up, and they're just like, oh, I'm not sure. So it doesn't happen. And then people are out playing on YouTube, right? Or paying on Patreon or whatever, right? So I think it's important to kind of leverage, like you said, that story that, this is something that is needed. And selfishly, and sorry, I'm going to offer it for anybody that, watches or listens to this episode. If you are obviously more interested in what Ian and Three Hippies is doing, obviously go check it out. But if there is, a really big adoption of the show and people want to learn more about it, we'll let you know. And Strange Crew, if you're listening, just let us know, send us a message or comment in the YouTube video or in our comments on social media. And maybe Ian, down the road, you can maybe run just a quick webinar and show a lot of the bands and artists and listeners that use Strange Grooves as a listening platform, what the product does, because I think there's a lot of merit in word of mouth, and sometimes we have to find ways to get our time back and not just be on meetings and calls. But people in music know so many people, and they love to go out and they love to support other people. So if they know about a tool or they know about something that they could use to support artists better, or to enjoy a better show, or to not be pissed off in line because their ticket won't scan, or wondering if their parents' tickets need to be printed, or whatever the case is, you got it. Don't worry, Ian got you covered. So I'll offer that, and I'll keep you posted on that feedback that we get. But Strange True, I would encourage you, if you're a band or an artist, or if you know someone that is, just let them know that it exists. Because we don't know what we don't know. And sometimes, it's good just to be like, okay, well, maybe that is it. And if you have questions, reach out to the team and ask them, hey, am I able to do this? Is there a big upfront pay? What do I have to do? And I think a lot of times it doesn't come from an imposter syndrome. I think it comes from, am I ready? I don't want to waste someone's time. I don't want to have a subscription to something and then not use it. And I think, that's your own limiting beliefs. And, that's the same, musicians, I'm not sure if I should be charging money. I should probably just go out and get exposure right now. Not the case. I honestly think that if that's the kind of stuff that you're doing, you need to showcase it at a better value so that people want to come in and see you play.
Yep. I really appreciate that. We love to talk to anybody, and kind of with our ethos, if you want to call it that. Yeah. If we can't do the thing you need, we'll point you in the direction of somebody who can.
I guarantee it. And that's why I said music lovers, builders, tech people, we're usually great facilitators of trying to link other people or link products or resources that will help those people. And it's always usually a really exciting thing, like Robin Hood, to swing in and be like, hey, did you know that you can do this? I've told 3 or 4 people already, just people I know that are touring in Halifax, that they've never really used a ticketing platform other than Eventbrite, and just because of the access, right? And then sometimes they're like, oh, well, we only have 50 tickets, so we're going to lose so much fees. We don't want to bother using it. So we're just going to do pay what you can at the door. That does not go up to the value that you would have got even using Eventbrite. So I think it's important to, from our perspective, like I said, the people that we talk to on a marketing perspective, media relations, let them know that it exists. And if they have questions or they're worried about, adopting it, reach out to Ian, guys. Seriously, he'll be happy to talk to you. And I think with any technology, what I've learned, the more you start to actually get in and use it and try to make it a non-negotiable every day to get in and use it or understand how it can work for you, then you will use it more.
Yep.
Right.
I'm guilty of that with tech that I don't use often.
I do it all the time. Right. And that's why I said, if I don't start using it immediately every single day, most people, their retention rate is garbage. Right. So it's one of those things you need to have it so that it actually serves you and you see the value. And if you are able to get money back and you're able to, buy gear or get a hotel like that, it does translate. So I think that's important.
That's the dream. That's what we want.
And Strange Crew, you'll hear some fun plugs, because we're going to work a little bit with Ian and his pals, because we think it's such an important service to really plug into the industry and to let people know, especially going into the new year. We want as many people who are out making music and, like I said, taking grants, working with amazing engineers, people like our pal Paul Milner that we all know. We want to make sure that what people like him are churning out with artists and bands, when they actually get a gig to tour that album that they just made, that it's lucrative for them and that they can play another one, and that maybe they're playing at bigger venues. Maybe they're on a festival circuit because of the engagement they're getting. And, I think whether it's through ticketing, whether it's through your marketing, whether it's through your fan experience, all that plays into people coming out to your shows. And if you really don't care, then maybe you shouldn't be in the space. maybe just play in the basement, right? And we're the same way. If we want to mess around with our show and not be serious about it, there's thousands of podcasts out there. People love to hear themselves talk. I'm sure, we don't need to be doing it. So I think we really look to try to meet with people like yourself to understand what's happening, what's new that can help the people that we're talking to. We don't want to just talk to incredible bands or people. We really want to know how to serve them as well and give them an aha moment and say, holy shit, we started using that software and like, oh my God, that's what we want to hear in a few months' time, right? So Strange Crew, you're on it, okay? You gotta go out and like follow, figure out what's going on in the software, figure out if there's a place for it in your life, figure out if there's a roadmap of to where you'd want it to be placed. Maybe it's in a couple of months when you're ready to tour, so reach out to the team, figure it out.
Yes, and we'll have everything linked in the show notes as well for easy access. And Ian, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show. And I'm sure we'll be chatting.
We'll be coming down on the road. We'll be doing an episode on the road where we're going to come in and we're going to see your music collection. We're going to see you rip some instruments. It's going to be awesome.
Oh no!
Oh
Nobody
yeah,
wants to see that.
Hey, I heard there's a ticketing platform in case you want to be a gigging musician.
That's right. Yeah. I'm working on the licks for Sweet Emotion right now with my two youngest boys.
I can play the Matchbox. Okay, I'll come in. I'll play the Matchbox. That's all I can do. I can get you on the mic. I'm not very good, and I can play the Matchbox.
I can clap.
Great.
Right.
We've got a band.
Throw an imaginary lasso like I was doing at the Doobie Brothers last night. That's apparently my new move.
It's great.
You got to have a signature move.
So. No, I really, really appreciate you chatting with us today. And I'm really excited for, our audience and, potential customers of, both businesses to really leverage what you've built. Because, I'm just going to say one more thing. People don't have to go out and do this stuff. They don't have to hire people to build out tech. It's hard. It's actually like as fun as it might be for you because you love to do it. There is a lot of due diligence in it and planning it and making sure that you're not just having people like code and develop something that isn't actually going to work for people, like your actual end user. And I think like there's something so important in showcasing that you guys are having fun at this. This isn't something that you're doing because you need to, you want to do it. And, when people want to do something, there's so much more energy and excitement in it. And so I know it's not, like smart, like don't roadmap everything, but I think you're going to hear a lot of things of how people could potentially use the platform. And I'm excited to hear what they bring to you. So on them now.
Yeah, we'd love that.
Good job. And seriously, thank you so much for, wanting to work with us. And, Strange Crew, like I said, you're going to be hearing a lot more about this and probably seeing some fun bits that we'll be recording. So stay tuned. We're pretty excited. Film crew will be going down here sometime.
Well, it was a pleasure. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, you as well. Looks like you got sun like we do.
It's coming through.
Wonderful.
All right, Strange. And until next time, keep it
strange. Bye.
See ya.
If you've enjoyed this, then you have to hit strangegrooves.com for more amazing content. To support this podcast and music community, go to patreon.com/strangegrooves. As always, keep it strange.